Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about is two independent high-end watch companies. Now, by independent, I mean they're not owned by a big corporation like Swatch or Richemont or even LVMH. Even though all of these companies have some great brands and some great watches, the independents are that independent. The big independents like Rolex, for example, is not is one thing, and but these two companies, H. Moser Company and Moritz Grossmann, a German company, represent a really interesting niche, sort of in between everything else. Um, Anyway, so let's take a look at it. About a year ago, I looked at these two, but I looked at them in a different perspective. Here, I want to examine them as not compared watch to watch like I did before, but rather just sort of let's see what they're up to. Now, the first company is this is from H. Moser, these two, and it's from a line they have that's relatively new called the Streamliner line. The Streamliner Flyback chronograph automatic is from 2020, and it won the Grand Prix award for chronographs. Now, the chronograph they used is from Agenor, and it was called the Agengraph. But together with Agenor and H. Moser, the group that's called Precision Engineering, it's a separate but also owned by the same bigger entity, from the Milan family. They worked out this movement that they call HMC 902. It's automatic, 55 hours, 3 hertz. It's a chronograph column wheel flyback, 45,000 Swiss francs. Now, on the other end, and by end I mean the price end, a new one, a relatively new one called Streamliner Center Second Smoked Salmon. By the way, the one thing that's happened with a lot of the ones that H. Moser's coming out with, they're selling out almost as soon as they come out. And this was one of them, the smoked salmon. Interesting, wonderful color on that one. Now, the movement, though, was used in a lot of different watches by H. Moser. It's called the HMC 200. It's automatic, 72 hours of a reserve, okay? 3 hertz, and it's got hours, minutes, and seconds, 19,000 Swiss francs. Now, going over to Moritz Grossmann, they have a very strange, to me, naming policy. I suppose H. Moser does too, because you'll see two watches that are in the same category. One costs hundreds of thousands, and not hundreds of thousands, but over 20, 30, $40,000 in there, and the other one costs under 20. So you have funny things like that. Okay, never mind. Now here, in looking at Moritz Grossmann watches, is a German company. They have the Benu Heritage Power Reserve. This is a hand wound. One reason I really like them, they have a lower frequency in their watches, wonderfully built movements. This particular one is called the Benu Heritage Power Reserve. That little red line right below the 12 o'clock and the logo on there is the power reserve. See, a little red line that's coming. I tell you when your wind is running out. Now on the bottom there, I put two prices because what happens with Moritz Grossmann, they add the value added tax, which is 19% in the EU. It was really interesting. I had Brexit, the United Kingdom got out of the EU, and they still have the same 19% VAT, or something close to that. Okay, so this watch, now this is one thing about Moritz Grossmann. They're very expensive watches. They're excellent watches, but they're super expensive. This one was, with VAT, is €48,800. But take out the VAT, it's almost $8,000 less, 40,168 without the VAT. Now, one of my favorite watches that they have is called the Binu Heritage Hamatic, white gold, and this one's 57,000, or without VAT, 47,900. Now, the reason I like this one, the caliber 106.0, is an automatic, but the way it's automatic, it's got a hammer, a hamatic hammer. And so the old hammer is going like this because of the movement rather than a rotor going around, and that's what winds it. And to me, it's a fascinating watch. Here's this particular one has a more of a yellowish dial. They have a lot of different colors. They have white ones, black ones, and so forth. But I thought this one looked sort of interesting. Okay, now back to H. Moser. The Pioneer line, this is where you have these crazy differences. I always thought that the Pioneer line, this is your entry-level watch. Well, it turns out not exactly by a long shot. I'm not even sure how they justify something going in there, but never mind. Just look at the watch and don't worry about the category. Now, sort of at the entry level is the Pioneer Center Seconds in blue, and that's for Swiss francs, 12,900 Swiss francs. To me, that's a wonderful deal because you can get a top of the line watch. It does have rubber bands on it. You can ditch those and go get a nice, croc band, and you could wear that thing anywhere. Again, this one has the HMC 200 automatic, 72 hours, 3 hertz, hours, minutes, and seconds. Now, the Pioneer cylindrical tourbillon skeleton. I don't like tourbillons and I don't like skeletons, but here's another watch I really like. I liked it when I first saw it. It was in the Grand Prix, and I thought, boy, I hope this thing wins. I have to be careful. Every watch that I want to win doesn't, so I have to say it quietly. I hope it wins. Well, this one did, and 79,000 Swiss francs is not cheap, but what a watch. It has almost octopus-like bridges on it, and then you have your timekeeping is at the top, but you can really see the movement. You can see the tourbillon. God, this is a watch I'd love to have. Really a fantastic watch. And like I said, I'm not a tourbillon fan. I'm not a skeleton fan, but this one I really flipped over. Now, back to Moritz Grossmann. Here are two. This, the Center Seconds, is their entry level. Now, the one I picked is in a salmon color, and for some reason, the salmon colored one is more expensive. It's 34,900 euro. Without the VAT, it's 29,328. However, in blue, it's only 25,882, and that's without the VAT. So, I mean, it's a kind of watch that is an excellent horology, caliber 100.11. By the way, too, all of the calibers in Moritz Grossmann are their own calibers. They don't use anybody else's. Now, here's another watch that. This watch was in the Grand Prix. I didn't even make it to first base, and I have no idea why. It's one of my very, very favorite Moritz Grossmann watches, called the Universalzeit stainless steel 44.5. A lot of these watches by Moritz Grossmann are a little bigger. They tend to be around 40 millimeters and more. And now this one is a manual wound, 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. I love that. And look at the dial on that. You have all of these little holes. And what they are, they're dates for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different places in the world. And so just about anywhere you are, you can see what time it is. Over in the Western Hemisphere, you see 17 for Phoenix and 21 for Rio de Janeiro. And those are afternoon hours or PM hours. Anything after 12 is. And then on the other hand, on the eastern hemisphere, you can see the lower numbers. And so, but I mean, in Cape Town, South Africa, Singapore, Dubai, Tokyo. I mean, it. I just love this watch. These poor guys, they entered that into the Grand Prix, and I thought for sure they're going to win because it's such a brilliant plan. They didn't get anywhere, and that's too bad. I think Moritz Grossman's had really bad luck with the Grand Prix, and I have no idea why. I just don't know. Caliber 100.7 manual wound. Love that watch. Okay, back to H. Moser. Now, here we have one of the things that going way back with H. Moser is the perpetual calendar. They've got, I think, in my opinion, probably the best perpetual calendar going, and it's so simple. If you look at the middle of the watch, right where the hour and minute hand come together, you see this little knob. What that little knob is the month indicator, because there are 12 months in a year and there are 12 hours in a day, or 24 hours, or 12 hours in a half a day. And so they use that for the month. Very, very smart. A power reserve indicator over at 9 o'clock. Date, nice sized date window. Another watch I really, really like, except I'm not too good about keeping the dates. One thing, a guy showed me, who used to be the U.S. rep for H. Moser, he was showing me one of these and how easy it was to reset it. And that's important because watches run out of juice when you stop winding them or stop wearing them for a while, especially if you rotate your watches. And so you have to reset a perpetual calendar, which means to set it forever, pretty much. Anyway, Caliber HMC 800, and it's based on a Caliber HMC 341, 18,000 VPH, which again, I like the slower hertz in it. Okay, now this other one, Heritage Dual Time, is another watch I like. I like the Heritage style. Those big numbers are easy to read. I just like sort of the Heritage style and the whole line of watches that they have on this. This is their dual time, and you can see the dual time is sort of outlined. So you can see it's about 8 minutes after 10, but then you look down there, well, it's 8 minutes after 5, whatever the dual time is on. Again, this is another caliber that's based on one of their other calibers. This one, the 809, is based on the 200, which I've used a lot. This is an automatic that they have on that. Now, finally, these two watches are ones I like. First of all, a Cornerstone. It has a shape movement in it, and by shape, it has the same shape as that rectangle. And the style of it is very, what I sort of like the Mad Men from Madison Avenue back in the 1950s. Very interesting style. Very formal style. Caliber 103.3, manual wind, 21,600, 60 hours, 42,000 euro, or without the VAT, 35,294. That's the only thing about Moritz Grossmann is some of their watches. I mean, I wish they had more entry level. I think that was something that H. Moser did. They brought in more entry level. Now, one thing that H. Moser does, they have them in very small production numbers, so that's something to know. By the way, if you ever visit Glashütte, Germany, where Grossmann has their shop, or their factory, really, it's really interesting. It's built very modern looking building in it. Now the final one is one I've always liked by Moritz Grossmann, the Tefnut Arabian Nights. What a what a watch! There was a I went to one of the shows they had, I don't know how, 5, 6 years ago at in New York at the Watch Time show, and I went to the Moritz Grossmont site, and there was this woman there winding this watch, and the way she was winding it, it was a Tef nut twist that you twist the bar lug at the top, and that winds it. Really, it's really an interesting watch. This watch is also very interesting. It actually has two bar lugs on the top and the bottom, but then it has a regular lug just on one side. It gives it sort of this asymmetric look to it. This watch is to me just one of the coolest looking watches. It's a woman's watch, so they brought it down to 37 millimeters, which is, not tiny. You have a watch, you can tell the time with it, and but gorgeous watch. Caliber 102, manual winding, 3 hertz. So these are, I think, for high-end, mid-size watch companies, and by high-end I mean not only expensive, but I mean high-end in quality. These two as mid-size watch companies, I keep coming back to them because I can't think of any other ones. Maybe you can say, hey, what about these guys and what about these guys? Believe me, I've thought about a lot of them. That doesn't mean I was right on this one. I'd like to hear what you think about both of these companies, any of these watches, because they're, to me, a very important part of both German watchmaking and of Swiss watchmaking for high quality watches, but they're not owned by some big conglomerate. Let me know what you think. It's an opportunity to subscribe if you like. Till next time, this is Bill Standard for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.